Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, live and direct from our office here at Cheney University. And today we're going to do some work with reducing and simplifying fractions. Reducing and simplifying fractions. But before I get started, I want everybody to make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notifications button so you'll be notified every time I post new content. And another thing I want to do before I get started is I want to give a shout out to Collegiate Lux, right? For, basically for putting me on. I got this Morgan State University hoodie from Collegiate Lux. Their website is collegiatelux, as in LUXE.com, right? I like this hoodie. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple other joints from them too. I got a Coppin sweatshirt and I got a Johnson C. Smith sweatshirt from them too. They got a lot of HBCU paraphernalia for you to go check out. As you know, if you've seen my channel, you've seen in the other videos, you know I rep a lot of different HBCUs because I think that's important to promote institutions that are dominated by us in terms of population. I think that's important. But yeah, go check them out. Collegiatelux.com. Check them out. And I also, in terms of doing business with them, I did get excellent customer service. I know how people always like to complain about black businesses and, poor customer service. Well, I got excellent customer service doing business with them. So yeah, check out Collegiate Lux, collegiatelux.com. All right, now getting into the lesson. Oh yeah, and another thing too, if you don't know something about me, I got my undergraduate degree from Morgan State University back in 2003. So that's another reason why this hoodie is very important to me. It's very near and dear because I matriculated, learned a lot of things actually on the campus of Morgan State University right in Baltimore, Maryland. All right, I promise now. We into the math now. Okay, now, reducing and simplifying fraction. Now, I want to do a video on this because this is a very fundamental topic that's very important, and it ends up causing a lot of issues with more complex problems if these fundamentals aren't fully understood. So I got two fractions up here. The first one is 6/9. The second one is 12/32. Now, when we add fractions, subtract fractions, multiply fractions, divide fractions, we're not finished until we provide an answer in simplified form, right? We're not finished until we provide an answer in simplified form. Now, the first question you should be asking is, well, what does that even mean? What is simplified form? Simplified form is when your numerator and your denominator do not have a common factor bigger than 1. When your numerator and your denominator do not have a common factor bigger than 1. That's what simplified form means, or reduced form. Now, what does that mean, right? Because I just hit you with some other concepts and some other terms, right? Factor form, like a factor. What is a factor? A factor is a number that can be multiplied to arrive at another number. So, for example, factors of 6 might be 2 and 3, because 2 times 3 is 6. Or 6 and 1, because 6 times 1 is 6. Those numbers I just listed, 6, 1, 2, and 3, those are called factors of 6, right? Now, what I said is a fraction, which is when you have a numerator and a denominator. A fraction is, is in simplified form when the greatest common factor, or the biggest number that they share or have in common, is 1, right? Now, in this case, it's not 1 because there are a few different numbers that can be divided by each of these in order to break it down to smaller numbers. Now, the thing about fractions is the numbers can change, but the value won't change, right? The numbers in the fraction will change, but the value doesn't have to change, okay? So if you're just starting out and trying to practice, reducing fractions, simplifying fractions, what I suggest is you do this, right? On your paper, you write down the numerator. So the numerator, of course, is the top number. So you write the numerator down. Matter of fact, let me do green. Right? You write the numerator down. In this case, it's 6. Right? And you just write on your paper, what are the factors of 6? All right? So I already said 6 times 1 is 6. So I know 6 and 1 are 2 of the factors of 6. Right? And then, what are 2 other factors of 6? 2 and 3. So I got 2 and 3. And those are the only whole numbers, rather. Let me be clear. Let me be real precise, because there are a bunch of numbers. There's an infinite number of numbers that can be multiplied to make 6. But in this process, we only care about the whole numbers, right? The whole numbers. We don't want no decimals. We don't want no fractions. We just want the whole numbers. So 6 times 1 and 2 times 3 are the only whole numbers that can be multiplied to make 6. So those are my factors. All right. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for the 9 because the 9 is my denominator. So down here, boom, write my 9, and I know that I can do 1 times 9 to get 9. So 1 and 9 are 2 of my factors. And then I also know that I could do 3 times 3 in order to arrive at 9. So I know 3 is a factor. I don't need to write the number 3 twice because it's the same number, right? So now, this is how you find what we call the greatest common factor. Common meaning it's in both lists. Common meaning it's in both lists. Just like the common cold, anybody can get a cold. So it's common, right? The greatest meaning the largest amount. Factor. Factors are numbers that can be multiplied to arrive at the product that you're dealing with. In this case, 6 or 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through and I'm going to circle the numbers that are in both lists. So I see 1 and 1, and I see 3 and 3, right? I see 9 is in this list, but it's not in that list, so I cross that off. 2 is in this list, but it's not in this list, so I cross that off. Anything that don't match up, I will cross off. So the 6 is in this list, but not in that list, so I cross that off. So I got to look and I say, okay, well, what are my common factors? 1 and 3. But what's the greatest common factor, or the GCF? Greatest common factor is 3. Once I establish that, the next step, and make sure you put this in your notes, the next step is to divide the numerator and the denominator by that number. And that's how we simplify fractions or reduce fractions, right? So I'm going to do divided by 3, and I'm going to also do divided by 3. Now, we got to know our division facts, which are just an outgrowth of us understanding our multiplication facts. So if you don't understand your multiplication facts, make sure you go practice. You can go to the website. You can go to allthismath.com, go to the printable section, print out some 12 by 12 or 15 by 15 blank multiplication table templates, and just go in. Just practice. Complete one on a daily basis, right? Because, you know, math is a lot like sports. We need repetition, and we need to, like, practice and drill ourselves and develop those fundamental skills, all right? So 6 divided by 3, that gives me 2. 9 divided by 3 gives me 3. So now I'm finished. 2/3 is the simplified form of 6/9. 2/3 is the simplified form of 6/9. Now the reason I know that is because now the greatest common factor between these two numbers is a 1, right? And it's got to be. You know why? Because 2 is a prime number. Prime numbers only have 2 factors, 1 and themselves. 2 is a prime number and 3 is a prime number. So 2 only has 2 and 1 as a factor. 3 only has 3 and 1 as a factor. You know what I mean? So now that that's the case, 2/3 is as simple as it gets. We can't get no simpler, right? We can't reduce it no more. Now the numbers are different, but the value is the same. That's why these are called equivalent fractions. The numbers can change, but the value is the same. Let me go into that for a quick moment. Now, what does that really mean? Think about it like this. If you took a test and there were 9 questions on it and you got 6 right, you put that in your calculator, you would do 6 divided by 9 to find out the percentage you got on that test, right? You'd have a 67 or a 66.66666666, on and on, right? You will round it off to a 67. Well, your teacher will round it off to a 67. Boom, that would be your grade, right? Hopefully you do better next time. But if you took another test that had 3 questions on it and you got 2 right, you would still have a 67. Because in your calculator, you would do 2 divided by 3, because all a fraction is, for real, is just a division problem. That's really all a fraction is. It's another way to represent a division problem. So you would do 2 divided by 3, and that would give you 66.66666666. Repeat it. Actually, no. It would be 0.66666666. I skipped a step. You would get the 0.66666666 repeated and multiply by 100 to get the 66.66666 repeated. And then your teacher will round that off to a 67. So I apologize for being mistaken at first when I talked about 6 divided by 9. But at the end of the day, you would end up with a 67. So my point is, we know that 6/9 is equivalent to 2/3 because the numerical value is the same. The value of those fractions are the same, right? So whether we talk about ninths or we talk about thirds, ninths, 6 of them is the same amount as thirds, 2 of them, 2/3. All right. So 6/9 is equal to 2/3. All right, let's slide over here to number 2, right? Number 2, we got 12/32. Now, I know I can reduce this because I know that, well, for one thing, I know that these are both even numbers, right? So if they're even numbers, they're definitely divisible by 2. So if that's the case, then that means that we can break this down. So let me do a list, just like I did with the 6 and the 9. So let's do 12, and let's just throw up what the factors are. So what numbers can be multiplied together to equal 12? I know I could do 1 times 12. So I got 1 and I got 12. And then what else? I got 6 times 2, right? And also got 4 times 3. Boom. Okay. What else? That's it. 1 times 12, 6 times 2, 4 times 3. Now, 32, we're going to do the same thing. Same thing for 32. 32, we got 1 and 32. We got 16 times 2, right? I just happen to know that just because I have a lot of familiarity with numbers, right? And that was developed over time. I wasn't born like that, right? That's developed over time from putting in the work and doing the practice. All right. What else? 8 times 4. Anything else? Let me think. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nah, that's about it. So 32 has 6 factors, whole numbers that can be multiplied together to equal 32, right? So now we do the same thing we did over here. We're looking for the common factors. What are the common factors? So I see 1 is in both lists, right? 12 is up here, but it's not down here, so cross him off. 6 is up here, but it's not down here, so cross that off. 2 is in both lists. All right. 4 is in both lists. All right. 3 is up here, but it's not down there. 8 is down here, but it's not up there. 16 is down here, but not up there. 32, same thing. So look at what's circled, right? And I want to find my GCF, my greatest common factor. Let's see. Now I got 1 is in common, 2 is in common, and 4 is in common. What's the biggest number out of 1, 2, and 4? 4. 4 is the biggest number. So 4 is the GCF. Then again, the next step, because there's steps to this, there are rules to this. Math has rules and steps. And if you follow these rules, you'll get the answer correct every single time. That's why I like math. That's one of the reasons I like it. So then you do 12 divided by 4. And we're going to do 32 divided by 4. Now 12 divided by 4, again, we need to know our division facts. You got to know your division facts. You got to bring that to the table. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 32 divided by 4 is 8. And now we know we're finished because the greatest common factor between 3 and 8 is 1. Because 3 is a prime number anyway. So 3 only has 2 factors, 3 and 1. 8 is not prime, it's composite. It has more than 2 factors. But in terms of the factors of 8, you got 8, 1, 4, and 2. That's it. The only numbers that number that matches up in both lists, the list for the 3 factors and the 8 factors, is 1. So once you get to that point, that's how you know you're finished. That's how you know you're finished. You know what I'm saying? Now, real quick, let me do something real quick too, because there's another method in case you didn't want to do this long list, but you start out with 2 numbers that are even numbers, like 12 and 32. You could just divide by 2 consistently, just to see what happens. 12 divided by 2 gives you 6. 32 divided by 2 gives you 16. And then you say, okay, I got 2 more even numbers. So I'm going to divide by 2 again and divide by 2 down here. So I'm going to have 3/8. And now 3 is not divisible by 2, even though 8 is. But then when you examine 3/8, you realize what I just said, which is that the greatest common factor they have in common is 1. All right. So that's about it for that. And like I said, like, this is a very fundamental skill that we all need to know how to do, so that when we're adding fractions, subtracting fractions, multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, when we're solving equations and we end up with fractional solutions, we just need to know, we need to be able to arrive at a final answer, because your answer is not finished unless your fraction is in reduced or simplified form. All right. So if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the post notifications, and please tell some people, like, when you see this video, if this video was helpful to you, please share it with somebody else. And tell them to share it with somebody else. All right. Let people know what we're doing over here, all this math. You know, we're trying to bring mathematical literacy to the Black community in a way that is very, very useful, and it's not painful. You know what I mean? You know, because math is really not that bad if somebody explains to you how to do the problems. All right. So, and always remember that there's all this math all around you. Peace.